Every parent has stories they can tell about screaming at their child to make them stop screaming at their brother, or lecturing them in anger about their child's anger problem, or reaching out and grabbing a toy right out of a child's hands to say, "Don't you dare snatch that from your brother, you made him cry." I mean, we all have these stories where we go, who is the child here? My God, we're both children. And the fact is, yes, that's really true. And the wonderful comfort that we have about that is that not only does our child have us as a parent to help them work through their growth issues, but we have God as our parent, the parent of the parent. And that's a tremendous, tremendous comfort for us. I want to go back for a minute into this passage in Proverbs 2 about wisdom. Wisdom, remember, is the principal thing we need as a parent. The source of that wisdom comes directly from God, and we get that wisdom not by default just because we know God. We get that because we really we fight for that wisdom. We cry out for that wisdom. We work for that wisdom. We look for wisdom everywhere we can get it, and we are aggressively seeking wisdom as a parent. And then God says, absolutely, I'll supply it. Let me read this passage again. Proverbs 2, the first 9 verses. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding, if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, and if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He holds victory in store for the upright. He is a shield to those whose walk is blameless. For he guards the course of the just and protects the way of his faithful ones. Then you will understand what is right, just, and fair, every good path. What I want to focus on for right now is this, where God says in here, your ear, turn your ear, apply your heart to understanding. If you call out for insight, if you cry aloud, then you're going to know the just, the right, the fair thing to do in another circumstance, with the people that you're interacting with. You as a parent are going to know what to do that's just, right, fair, exactly what needs to happen for that child. So the process begins with you crying out, not first of all for your child, but crying out for you. It's like being in that airplane when they say, put the mask on yourself first and then turn and put it on your child. You cannot take your child into a reality that you do not experience yourself. If you're an angry person, you are completely defeated at the task of trying to have your child be peaceful when you are the parent and you're filled with anger. You've got to be, as a parent, we have to, as a parent, be crying out for wisdom for ourselves. We need to be applying our hearts to understanding, and then we can turn around and lead our child into that. So we have a father who is our parent, and we must walk with him in a way where we are learning from him, where we are receiving his discipline, where we are receiving his correction and his encouragement and his guidance in such a way that we're not the same person tomorrow that we are today. We're not the same person next week that we are this week. When I put my head down on the pillow and you put your head down on the pillow tonight, you need to know that you're not the same person going to sleep that you were when you woke up. You're in a constant state of growth and change. Now, what is wisdom? Wisdom is knowing what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and then you have the character and the tools and you have the ability to do the doing. That's what wisdom is. You know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and then you can pull off the execution of that. Well, the way you can do that is because God says, as being your source, right? He's the vine, you're the branch, and he flows to you. In that process of being hooked up to God, the Apostle Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 2:16 that we have the mind of Christ. We have been given the mind of Christ. The mind of Christ is wisdom. Knowing what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and then having the character and the ability to do it. We have been given that. Then why are we as parents still doing things like screaming at our kids to stop screaming at their brother? Why do we fall into those childish patterns? Why do we fall into those self-defeating and poor parenting approaches? Well, don't be too hard on yourself. Encourage yourself, will you please? Luke 2:52, when it's talking about Jesus being born, growing as a youth, being with Mary and Joseph, it says he walked with them in obedience. And then it says this, it says he grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. Jesus, a child, born as a man, indwelled by God, being given the mind of God, had to grow in a process. He had to grow in wisdom. He had to grow in wisdom. He had to learn. In other words, wisdom is not just something that gets dropped on you. Wisdom is something that is the essence of process and progress. You're in one state now in this moment. After you listen to this clip, you're going to be a little farther along in wisdom if there's things here that you can grab onto and apply and take in ownership. You're going to be wiser in a few minutes than you are right now. You are in a process. And to be a parent that can fulfill the high calling that God has for you, you've got to know yourself. You've got to know your strengths. You've got to come to know your weaknesses. You've got to come to know the hidden places in your heart that you never saw before. Being a parent is going to be a huge force for you to grow in personal wisdom about yourself. And once you grow in those areas, and as you're handling your issues and you're dealing with your stuff, you are then going to be able to grab your child's hand and parent that child in greater wisdom every day. You're going to do a better job as a parent tomorrow than you did today, and a better job next week than you're doing this week. And God designs it that way. He's designed you to be a parent who has to grow in wisdom. So please be encouraged wherever you are in your parenting today. If you're feeling up today, like you look back and you go, I did everything right, good for you. If you look at your day and you go, oh my gosh, you hold your head in your hands and you go, I reacted this way, or I did that. Don't get discouraged. God totally understands. He has you on a path, and he's going to take you to greater wisdom and greater wisdom. And you are going to be adequate in every way for this job of being a parent. Because, why? You are willing to grow. You are willing to change. You are willing to drop your defenses. You are willing to be secure in your identity in Christ so that you can look at yourself and not have to panic at your mistakes. You can just look at them and say, how about that? I was a real jerk today with my kid. Well, I'll just have to figure out with God how to get better at that and not do that again. And you cannot fall into condemnation. You just say, I have the mind of Christ and I am growing into that mind.